right, so welcome to week 3 of the NFL season, which means it's time for another episode of the SportsRoom here on Unger to the Max. And with me this week, since we are playing the Chicago Bears, from the Chicago Audible, we have Will. Welcome to the show.
Dude, thanks so much for having me on. I'm glad to be here. Excited to kick off this week 3. 2 1-1 teams coming off victories here. The matchup here in week 3, Bears Browns. And I couldn't be happier to be on your show just to kind of give you my perspective from your upcoming opponent.
Yeah. So this is actually, we just talked about this off mic or off video, however you want to say it. It gets confusing in the media world. But this is my first video since breaking the 400 subscriber mark. So welcome to everyone who subscribed to my channel as a result of the video collaboration that I just did with Sauce Sports, the Houston Texans YouTuber. Good luck in your week 3 matchup with Davis Mills as your rookie quarterback. Yeah. So how are you doing?
I'm doing well. Busy day. We were talking offline a little bit. I've been building a nursery. My wife and I are expecting our firstborn here on Thanksgiving Day. This is my first recording in my new makeshift living room office, which is really exciting. But dude, congratulations on 400 subscribers. I know how much hard work that kind of takes to kind of build an audience like that. And I'm sure that's just the beginning for you. And I'm looking forward to you hitting 500, your 1,000, and so on and so forth.
Yeah, and congratulations to you as well to you and your wife on expecting. You said this is going to be William number 5, correct?
It is, yes. So William number 5, keeping the lineage alive. And fun fact, I was born during a Bears game, Bears-Vikings Monday Night Football. And since we're due on Thanksgiving Day, the Bears do have a game that day this year. So there's a chance that my son can be born during a Bears game just like myself.
Oh, yeah, you guys play the Lions, right?
Yes. Mm-hmm.
Yeah. It always seems like you guys play the Lions on Thanksgiving.
It's either the Lions or the Packers. Yeah. Maybe the Cowboys rarely, but it's usually Cowboys a divisional foe.
Host on Thanksgiving. So, but enough about that. Let's get into Bears Browns. So this week's game is a little bit tough for me because yes, I am a diehard Cleveland Browns fan. However, the Indians are not my favorite team in baseball. My favorite team in baseball actually happens to reside on the north side of Chicago, and they play at the friendly confines of Wrigley Field.
The Sox? No, I'm kidding. The Cubs.
No, it's the Cubs. Growing up, I have always loved the Chicago Cubs. And I am a very superstitious person when it comes to the Browns. So because we're playing the Bears, I'm forbidding myself from watching games 2, 5, 6, and 7 of the 2016 World Series since the Cubs beat the Indians in those games.
Oh, wow. You're taking this thing very seriously. I applaud you for that.
Yeah. Some people think I'm a little bit nuts for doing that, but whatever.
Hey, you have to do what you believe is going to put your Browns in the best position to succeed. I get it.
Yeah. Do you have any superstitious routines that you do for Bears games?
It's a weird one. I don't think I've ever even told people on my show, but I like to shower before a game. Like I get the cleanse going on. We do post-game shows as soon as the games are over. So if I'm not going to the game and I'm watching in my living room and podcasting after, I don't know, about a 12 o'clock I live in Eastern time. So I have those 1 p.m. kickoffs, get in that shower real quick, cleanse that week and start off fresh for the game. That's kind of my weird little superstition.
I like it. I mean, with me also, it's like leading up to the game, I'll watch highlights of games where the Browns won, whether that's from 2013 and 2014, because that's what's available on iTunes, or I'll watch games from last week or the previous season, because I'm like, okay, I want to watch games that send good vibes to the Browns. But here's the flip side. I try to watch games where teams from the opposing city lose. only because I will just for that week.
Okay, I get the vibes that you're trying to throw out, and the residual energy, the losing vibes for the opponent, the winning vibes for your team. And hey, there's always power in some of those thought frequencies that kind of get put out into the universe. So I like the way you're going about it. It's strategic. It's a little stealthy too, man.
And I mean, after this week, I'll be like okay with watching the 2016 World Series, and I'll be okay with watching like the 2015 Stanley Cup and 2013 Stanley Cup. Thank you for beating the Boston Bruins in that series, by the way. I appreciate
it. You're welcome. On behalf of the entire Blackhawks organization, you're welcome.
I would love to come to a Blackhawks game.
I've been the one. It's a tremendous experience.
Yeah.
So if you ever have an opportunity, I encourage you to go.
All right. So let's get into this game, because we spent a little bit of time talking about superstitions and all that. But you guys are coming off of a win against Cincinnati where Andy Dalton got injured. And Justin Fields came in. But if I remember correctly, in the postgame, Matt Nagy, your head coach, said that as long as Andy Dalton is healthy, he would be the starter. So do you expect Andy Dalton to be the starter against us this week? Or do you think it's going to be Justin Fields making his not debut, but his first career start?
Right. I expect it to be his first career start. Andy Dalton experiencing that bone bruise on his knee. I forgot who exactly had this injury a year ago in the NFL, but it was like a 4-week timetable in terms of recovery to getting back there on the field. And I'll be honest, Matt Nagy, your head coach, has been known to tell tall tales at the podium. And I feel like he just doesn't want to say Andy Dalton's out.
Yeah, I love the way you just said it like that. You're like, he's had a tendency to tell tall tales. That was just great.
I was just trying to be deliberate with my words and not be as extreme as needed. We're credentialed this year, getting to go to press conferences. So I got to make sure I don't want to be aggressive towards him or anything of that nature. Yeah. But he's known to not tell the truth and be honest all the time. But Justin Fields, I expect him to start, which I'm very excited for. I know there's a lot for him to kind of clean up jumping into that game last week in Cincinnati, but everything that I saw in training camp, everything that he showed me in preseason games, and really just the more I've learned about Justin Fields from the pre-draft, post-draft process, there's nothing about him that has me concerned. And I feel like he's just a kid that's going to continue to get better. And he's also a player that I believe won't make that same mistake twice. I've seen him clean up mistakes from preseason in last Sunday's game that the Bears had against the Bengals, that showing some of that growth. So I know there's some growing pains with the interception, a couple of false starts that he had on himself for being a little bit too, moving a little bit too much in the pocket in that shotgun, rocking his body a little bit too much there. But yeah, I expect Justin Fields to start, which I'm excited to see how that can maybe stress out that Browns defense a little bit here come Sunday afternoon, a little differently than an Andy Dalton would.
So you're kind of catching us at an interesting point in the season, because Jarvis Landry's injured and Odell might come back for this game. I've heard mixed things, like maybe he does, because since Jarvis Landry's injured, but I've also heard he might not be available. So I don't know what we're going to have in terms of wide receiver depth, but it's our defense I'm concerned about more. Not necessarily specifically because of your offense, just in general. Like I get it. We have 6 or 7 new players defensively, but watching the game on Sunday at First Energy Stadium, which is where I'll be for this game as well, I felt like Tyrod Taylor, before he got injured, he could just stand in the pocket and make himself a freaking pina colada. And then they bring in Davis Mills, a rookie quarterback. Let me say that again, a rookie quarterback, and we still couldn't generate any pass rush. So having to possibly face Justin Fields, who has the ability to move and get outside the pocket and make plays, that scares me.
It should. Not to be rude or anything of that nature, but I was watching some of your games so far this season, both that you've played, and I was a little shocked by the lack of pass rush as well. And the Bears' offensive line isn't great. We knew that coming into the season. It was a huge question mark. The interior right now is really struggling in pass protection. So a lot of pressure we've been giving up is right in the front of the pocket. And if that still ends up being the case, Justin has that mobility, right? That 4.4 40 speed to get out, buy some time, and whether it's buying time to find his open receiver or making plays with his legs, he's prone to do it. And what I've been very encouraged about with Justin Fields is his ability to, when he does take off with his legs, is to avoid some of those tackles, that contact, and actually getting down, going back to his baseball roots a bit and sliding. So I do think Justin Fields' legs is going to be a sneaky X factor in this game, because I do assume that he will play.
Okay. So also looking at our defense, we have some pretty good corners with Denzel Ward, who I would say is arguably one of the best cornerbacks in the league. I'm not going to go out on a limb and say he is the best cornerback, but I will say he's one of the best. Would you agree with me there?
I'd say he's very good. I don't have like a full tier of NFL corners on the top of my mind, but I will put him in the upper tier of, the upper echelon, whatever that word would be.
I know what you're going for. You're good.
You get it, right? That's one of those words that I read it and I don't say it a lot, but it's there and I want to use it sometimes.
Yeah,
I want to put him up there. He's good. So from when I look at your secondary and they're not playing to that level that I thought they would, you mentioned it, a lot of new players on that defense.
Right.
Are they just needing some time to gel and to get accustomed to one another? Is that your thoughts right now?
That's what I'm thinking. But at the same time, Joe Woods has been our defensive coordinator for a few years, and I haven't seen much improvement from our defense in that time. So, but here's my question. So Denzel Ward usually matches up with the opponent's best receiver. So would you say that he will probably match up with Allen Robinson?
Yes, 100%. It's if you're going to shadow our number one, that's going to be Allen Robinson. So what the Bears did this year at our wide receiver position is bolster it with speed. That's why you're looking at the acquisition of a Marquise Goodwin. We brought in Damiere Byrd over from the Patriots, and all these guys have 4.3 40 speed because the Bears' biggest issue a year ago at wide receiver was the lack of speed. We had one guy in Darnell Mooney who is actually having a very strong second year here in the NFL. He is our leading receiver after 2 weeks, and that's more because teams are really trying to take Allen Robinson out of the equation. And one thing that I think you'll need to kind of pay attention to, and something I'm definitely paying attention to, is how Justin Fields looks with these starters now with 1 week of practice, because the Bears didn't do him a lot of service in preseason and training camp. Didn't get him a lot of reps with the ones at all. He played mostly with the guys that did not make this team. So he's really starting to build that chemistry now this week. So I'm curious to see what kind of jump he can make. But to answer your question, yes, if you're going to shadow our number one, that's going to be Allen Robinson, who over the last 2 years has really shifted to me more of a hybrid guy where he's playing in the slot a lot. So he can kind of use that middle of the field as well as play outside. So that's going to be the guy to pay attention to if you're the Browns defense.
So for me, it's because of what happened against the Texans last week. I'm nervous about facing the Bears defense because the Texans defense, I wouldn't say the Texans are like the level the Bears were in 2018, but they're not a terrible defense. They're somewhere in the middle. But they were still able to generate a fair amount of pressure on Baker Mayfield and force him to make some throws that he shouldn't have necessarily made, and all that. And now we have to face Roquan Smith, Eddie Jackson, and Akeem Hicks. I think I said his name right.
Mm-hmm.
And Khalil Mack. What?
Yeah, that's a strong group of defenders. We did have that 3 takeaway game last week. We intercepted 3 straight throws from Joe Burrow, which I'm still trying to find out that's ever happened in Chicago Bears history, where we were able to pick off a quarterback on 3 straight passing attempts. But yeah,
Roquan
Akeem
took one
Hicks,
of those picks back to the house for a pick six.
he did, and he gave the ball away to a fan, and he got it back here today, it looks like, because that was his first career pick six, his first career touchdown for Roquan. So I'm glad he was able to get his football back. One lucky fan, though, he got a jersey, another ball, some gloves, a personalized note, really cool stuff there. But this Bears defense, it all starts up front. I think we have one of the most deepest defensive line units in the entire NFL, and we've been without 2 of our top 5 guys this start of the season so far. Our nose tackle, Eddie Goldman, he's been out with an injury. We haven't seen him since 2019 because he opted out due to COVID last year. Ended up missing some time in training camp, got hurt here right before the week 1 game, and he's looking to hopefully play this week. I'm going to keep my fingers crossed there. And then the key contributor last year that we had, who was like 3rd on the team in pressures generated and getting after the quarterback, was Mario Edwards. And he missed the first 2 games due to a suspension. So this Bears defensive line played really well without him. They're going to be bolstered now with them. And really, that front is what kind of drives this whole defense. We do have some concerns in the secondary. We don't have a nickel corner right now. Our safeties, you mentioned Eddie Jackson, big name, but he hasn't played to the same level that we've seen since 2018. He's missing tackles. He's not in the right position. I don't know if you saw that Sunday Night Football week 1, but he's not touching players when they're laying on the ground right in front of him for an easy tackle.
Yeah,
letting him stand up and run.
I watched that play. I'm like, what are you doing, Eddie Jackson? Like the guy's
not what he's supposed to.
The guy's right there. But you've talked about this defense and how good it can be. I don't know if you agree with me, but I feel like they've fallen off a little bit since Vic Fangio left to become the Broncos head coach.
100%. Cannot disagree with you whatsoever. So the last 2 seasons prior, we had Chuck Pagano as our defensive coordinator. He was much more vanilla with his play calling and just how he utilized these players. Didn't get all too creative. It was very predictable and really passive in some key situations. This year, we promoted our safeties coach, Sean Desai. He's our new defensive coordinator. He has experience with Vic Fangio. He he coached under Chuck Pagano as well. And the hope is he can kind of, bring his own twist to a more Fangio focused defense. Week 1 was horrendous, but going up against the Rams, not having any film on what they're going to do with Matthew Stafford, that's a tough test for any defensive coordinator making his debut in the league. Sean McVay is one of the best play callers in the entire game. And that one was, a test that hopefully he learned a lot of lessons from. Cincinnati had a pretty good week 1 against the Vikings. And I thought the Bears did a really good job, bottling up Joe Burrow, Joe Mixon as well. Their running back, who had a real big week 1. We also were able to contain him well. The Bears are 5th in the NFL in terms of keeping running backs in check. So we're 5th against the run.
Does it scare you that we have 2 running backs instead of just 1?
100%. Yeah. Nick Chubb and Kareem Hunt. That's in my notes for this week already. I'm already labeling them a 2-headed monster. They all bring something a little different to the table. Nick Chubb can run you over. He can break any tackle imaginable. And Kareem Hunt's more of that slasher mentality, see the whole one cut and go with that breakaway speed, that home run hitter. So yeah, I'm worried a little bit if our defense can't contain those edges and they allow you guys to set them up and Nick Chubb wears us down, because you guys run to the ball almost more than any other team in the league. So if you guys can consistent, and our Bears defense, I think we're the really bad on 3rd down. I think we're the 4th worst defense right now on 3rd down. So if you guys can sustain long drives, play methodically, wear this defense down, that does worry me.
Yeah. And you might have to worry about 3 running backs, because Demetric Felton came out of nowhere and actually made a couple big plays for us last week. And I'm like, who is this guy?
Yep. You guys have a pretty loaded core back there. I wish I can say the same for the Bears. We've had David Montgomery, who's looking as strong as ever. Brought in a Damian Williams from Kansas City, who I thought would be a really good spellback, change of pace type guy, and he's not cutting it so far. He's been a disappointment. Someone I was really high on in the offseason, and it's early. It's real early, but he's only averaging like 2.7 yards per carry, which compared to David Montgomery, it's almost like half right now.
Yeah. It's funny that you mentioned Damian Williams and how you've been disappointed with him, because I said this in my post-game video for Super Bowl 54. I thought Damian Williams should have won Super Bowl MVP for that game.
Right. Yeah. I mean, he was, the workhorse for the Chiefs in that game. And, if you didn't have like the Patrick Mahomes and the bigger names over there, you probably would have, given it to him. But he's someone that I know with a year off, it's going to take a while. The Bears are weird, though. We've tried this with Mike Davis a couple of years ago in the same backfield. Couldn't get him going. Ended up cutting him to get a comp pick mid-season. Then he goes to Carolina and breaks out. So it's something about that second running back in this city right now that we just can't get the playing at a higher level.
So obviously you're a Bears town, but what do you think Bears fans think of Baker Mayfield?
Really good question. I think we respect him in a way, right? Like he's someone that I keep seeing growth from him. And when he was coming out of college, he's a big personality. And I think it just took a while for his play to catch up to that personality a little bit just in the league, at least from my perspective, my one opinion. But I think he's someone that we're not going into the game as Bears fans in general, maybe ultra worried about him, although he does have the highest completion percentage in the NFL, the second highest yards per attempt. So someone like me who's looking a little bit deeper into this, I know he's not passing a ton, but when he has, he's been very efficient. And with this Bears secondary being as, I don't know, weak as it's been here the last 2 weeks, if we don't get pass rush, I feel like if you can run the ball a bit, that'll really set up Baker for some nice, easy completions on some guys that we have, like a Duke Shelley, a Kendall Vildor, as well. And our safeties, as much as I'm a big fan of Eddie Jackson, again, not playing at the same level. And there's been some miscommunication between our corners and safeties. So if any of that happens, I feel like Baker's a guy that will definitely capitalize on any mistake this defense makes.
So I think this week, we both kind of face the same dilemma in that it's probably going to be the tight ends that play the bigger factor in the game. For you guys, let me see if I can remember all of them. Jimmy Graham, Cole Kmet. Let me see. You have like 4 more, I think.
It feels like it's we have Jimmy Graham, Cole Kmet, JP Holtz, Jesper Horsted, and Jesse James. So we have 5 tight ends on this roster right now. Last week, we were in 13 personnel, like 10% of the time. So that's 1 running back, 3 tight ends, so real heavy sets. Yet we had 1 target to a tight end the entire game. It blows my mind.
Yeah, that makes no sense. Whereas we don't generally put all 3 running tight. Excuse me. Sometimes my mouth gets ahead of my brain.
I get that.
We have 3 tight ends on the roster. Usually we don't tend to use all 3 at the same time. But it's David Njoku, Harrison Bryant, and Austin Hooper. Sometimes you'll see us in a 2 tight end set. I think that's called 12 personnel, if I remember correctly. Okay, I'm still trying to learn the terminology a little bit. But so forgive me on that front. But I think you're going to see us use the tight ends a little bit more because our wide receiver depth is depleted a little bit without Jarvis and most likely without OBJ. Because we also released Kadero Hodge in the offseason. We thought he was going to clear waivers and we would be able to re-sign him. But that didn't happen. He ended up going to Detroit. I'm sorry for him.
Yeah, I know, right? That's a death sentence for anyone's career.
Yeah. So have fun there, Jared Goff.
Yeah, so I think you're right. Tight ends are going to be important. You guys have 3 very capable tight ends, as you mentioned, and without a true receiver core, Baker's going to have to rely on this other positional group to step up. And I know your running backs too, whether it be Chubb, whether it be Hunt, can also be very capable receivers coming out of the backfield. So the Bears, even if they can lock down whoever's playing wide receiver for you guys come Sunday, if they can't contain the tight ends, if you guys really want to go in that 12 personnel and have Njoku and Hooper out there as well at the same time and try to, pick apart the linebackers a bit. I know Roquan's tough, but maybe you can get some looks against an Alec Ogletree, who's playing in place of Danny Trevathan right now. Real late addition to our team.
Oh yeah, I forgot about Trevathan.
Yeah. So he's not going to be playing. Still got Ogletree going on. And again, a mismatch, a corner, a safety against any tight ends, a mismatch in your favor with those big bodies. I saw a few plays where Baker would just throw it up and it's like, here comes Bryant just going up and over. Nice, easy catch. So
Yeah, but
agreed. Tight end for good or for bad could really make or break either our offensive game plans right now.
And the problem, here's the one thing with Baker is it wasn't his throwing shoulder that got injured. It was his left shoulder that got injured. I mean, they said they were able to just pop it back in, but even still, that concerns me a little bit. Like if you go to throw and like you have to use both your shoulders to wind up at least. So that could play maybe a bit of a factor.
It could. And Mitchell Trubisky for the Bears a couple years ago did dislocate his non-throwing shoulder, had to wear a harness on it. He didn't look the same for a while. And I'm not comparing a Mitchell Trubisky to a Baker Mayfield, but I'm someone that did dislocate my shoulder 6 times. It was my yeah, thank you. Yeah, I got surgery on it. So it's been fixed up, but it was a few years where it would just fall out in my sleep. So if you do tear that labrum, it could be something that can pop out easily. I've seen other players in Chicago go through it where they just fall just wrong, have to get it popped in, then they go in. But there does become a little bit of a psychological factor too. If you can't trust your body, making a mistake or overcompensating with other muscles to kind of make up for that issue in that shoulder. So that could maybe impact accuracy, which he's been very accurate this year. And he looked accurate even coming back in from the injury. So I wouldn't be too concerned about it, but definitely something that I would keep in mind from a Browns fan perspective. Josh, I know I have about a minute left. Is there any other Bears questions that you wanted to kind of wrap things up with me?
So I actually was going to lead into this, but do you think Khalil Mack and Akeem Hicks are going to try and target Baker's shoulder a little bit?
I don't believe NFL players will target specific body parts to increase chances of injuries. At least I would hope not. I know it's football. It's a violent game. It's a violent sport. But going back to Bounty Gate, right? You may not want to be too public with those kind of notions as well. But I would say that they're going to try to get after him. I don't think they want to try to hurt him, but they do know with that shoulder, if you can get pressure on him, maybe that's how you can rattle him a little bit early on in this game. And you guys are home. The home crowd is a big factor in that last game. You were there. Home. You were there. So you know what kind of energy that stadium was thriving off of. So if we can get to Baker early, maybe that's how you can kind of take the crowd out just a little bit.
So before we get going, because I know you guys get rolling, what's your score prediction for this game?
Do you have the Bears winning? I do have the Bears winning. It's going to be a very tight game. I have them winning 24-21 right now. Only a 3-point. This may change if you're going to check out our podcast for my preview show on Thursday night, because I haven't even done that thought exercise, but that's going to be my top of mind prediction for you here, Josh. 24-21 Bears, and a very hard fought match of the Bears. I don't know if Browns games are the same, but every game feels like it's super close, sometimes closer than it needs to be. And
ask us about the 2 games against the Chiefs.
Yeah.
Ask us about the Ravens game in week 14 last year.
So you get it.
Yes. So I also have it being a really close game. Of course, here's the thing. If I don't think the Browns are going to win, I'm not going to pick them. But I think that being that we are at home and this is the first of our 4 games against the NFC North, I think we're going to be able to squeak this one out. But I'm going to say it's a 3-point victory for the Browns, 27-24.
Oh, so we score the same, at least for you, my prediction and yours, but you guys just get 1 extra score, or I guess that would be 2 field goals or a missed extra point. Depends on how you want to get to that 27, something like that. Yeah. I'm sure you'd rather take the 2 extra scoring chances over the botched extra point, but I like it. I think it's going to come down. It's going to be within a touchdown either way this game. And the Bears, the last 2 seasons, maybe in the last 3, the magic number for us that we can't really seem to get over consistently or pass is 20. I don't know what it is about 20, but that seems to be our cap. But with Justin Fields potentially hopefully starting, and a whole week to kind of get him in the groove and building chemistry with the starters, and Matt Nagy tailoring a game plan around his strengths, maybe that'll help. And with your lack of pass rush, as we mentioned, some secondary issues, we'll see if the rookie can take advantage. But regardless, your offense should pose some good challenges for this Bears defense. I'm excited to see how they respond.
Good challenges for this Browns defense. So it should be a pretty good game. This is
agreed.
I think we mentioned this at the beginning, but just to wrap things up, this is your first time visiting First Energy Stadium since 2013, because we played you guys in Chicago in 2017.
Remind us who won that game?
You did. You have won in 2017 and 2013. So I know you've won the past 2 meetings. I don't know when the last time we beat you was. I'd have to look. I'll look that up. But I want to end this 2-game losing streak against you guys. We have back-to-back games against the NFC North, just like you had back-to-back games against the AFC North, where you played the Bengals last week.
Right.
You're playing us this week. We play you guys this week, and then we're at Minnesota next week. So I want to get off to a good start against the NFC North.
Well, I wish you luck next week against the Vikings, without a doubt. And, the one thing that I'll say I'll miss is that 4th preseason game, because there's a long stretch where it seemed like we were just compadres a bit for that final preseason game, Bears, Browns, and everyone who won't make the team going at it. Good times. I remember watching Brady Quinn make his debut a bit against the Bears. And I was a big Notre Dame football guy I was probably like 13, 14 at the time, but big Notre Dame football guy, and was really hoping he'd pan out for you, but that's a whole different story for a different day.
So we're about to wrap things up. I expect a lot of Bears fans at this game.
You should.
Yeah. It's interesting. One more quick thought, and then I'll let you go.
All right.
I keep track of, I have a running list of other teams' fans that I see at Browns games, besides Browns fans and opposing fans, because that's just something I really enjoy doing. It's a lot of fun. For a lot of the games, I've seen Bears fans come to our stadium when the Browns aren't playing the Bears.
Strange. I mean, I know we travel well, but unnecessarily well. It's interesting.
So I'm excited. This is going to be a great game. I wish we were in the same division. I would love to see the Browns and Bears play each other every year.
There you go. That they never know. Maybe one day they'll change it all up again to, I don't know, make it fresh yet again. It's been a long time since they've done a divisional shakeup a bit.
Yeah. There are a couple things I'd like to see in terms of a divisional shakeup, but that's neither here nor there. I know you got to get going. So you got anything to close it out?
Yeah, sure. Josh, it was great to be on your show. Thank you again for reaching out, having me on. Looking forward to it. And hey, if the unthinkable happens and we end up meeting in the playoffs, which I think you know what that would mean, we'll do it again.
Yeah. I will. I don't know if I would be able to jump on your live stream post game, but if nothing else, I'll certainly be in the chat, so I'm around. Either taking the heat after you guys beat us, or maybe dishing out a little bit of trash talk, respectful trash talk.
Of course.
If we beat you.
That sounds like a plan.
Either way, I'll say good game.
Deal. Likewise,
okay.
Man. Likewise.
Right.
Thank you again.
Yep. And thank you for coming on the show.
Absolutely. Anytime.
All right. See you in 4 years. All right.
Thanks all right, again. Dude. That was fun. That was a lot of fun.
All right. Thanks again.
Hey, sounds good. I'll keep an eye out. Just hit me up on Twitter whenever you got it out, and I'll share it. That was really good stuff, man. Keep up the good work, okay? Congrats again on 400.
Thank you.
You're welcome. Bye now.
Bye.